Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's July 30th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and we're about to wrap up another month. Believe it or not, July is almost gone. The summer's almost gone. The good thing about that is I would expect that things will probably pick up in August and September. Usually the fall is uh, usually the market moves pretty well, and because it's really been a rather quiet summer. We had a fairly busy spring with a lot of volatility, but it's kind of been quiet over the summertime. We've had a few good days where we had some good moves. Today was not a bad down move. Um, I would call that your first leg down. And so once we headed down, it was obvious we were heading down. That would have been my next target. You can see we went a little bit further than that. It looked like it was just a regular two-tiered channel, but when we fell below, I would go ahead and I'd look for a measured move this, but I'd also go ahead and measure this whole thing in case this is just the midline right here, and that's what it turns out to be. This thing, you get a notice we bounced right on it, and for a while I thought we were just going to go sideways. Notice when we dropped down, you look for a measured move down, and that would have been down to here. But when it kept on going here, I would go ahead and look for another measured move down, but I would be playing the downtrend at that point because you can see we're just steadily making lower lows and lower highs, and that's a sign that we're probably going lower. So even though you would want to pay attention to the measured moves based off of this level here, and if you measure that again, I don't have it on here, but you want to do it just to kind of get a feel. And you can see that's another perfect measured move right there, but we pushed on through. So uh, put it on there so you can get an idea where it might bounce. But at the same time, I would, with it making lower lows and lower highs and staying in this channel, I would look for it to continue lower. You wouldn't necessarily expect this to happen, but once it starts heading lower, just get your measured move over, equal distance between these two, and move it on down, and you see where it bounces. Perfect measured move, but it actually went a tick or two further, but you can see that one, the second bar, bounced right off the line, and that's a good sign. So, but let me back out. We'll talk about the trades. And you can see that, from here on, we were still below the EMA pretty much. We came up a little bit there after your two measured moves, but it still didn't bounce. It just kept going. But let's talk about the trades, and we'll wrap up the day. But when I came in, we were working higher, and it was obvious you had a trend line working up here. I treated this like a double bottom, so it'd be a first entry. Actually, your failed second entry was right here, but I didn't like it really right into that double top. But when it tried to go lower again after a little bit of a break and got closer to the EMA and gave you that bullish bar, I think it was worth attempting to enter in there. And you could even argue for that one maybe because your overnight high is really back up here. So there's enough room to get out really by there. And you can see we found a little resistance right there and then jogged back again. But it kept on going higher. And I definitely wouldn't be entering up here. Um, then again, I did make that one green. I didn't really think it was worth risking. There wasn't enough room to get out there. So I didn't want to mark that one blue, but it's real close. But for the reasons I just named, I'd leave that one green. But when you've already got a failed second entry short and you come back and make a higher double bottom basically off the EMA, then you probably want to consider that one. Of course, then you got the close outside, you got two legs up, and you made a new high, and then you tried to go higher and made a double top, so that's a lower high, and you got a little bitty bar, about 3 ticks. I like going short there. You may not have got in that trade, depending on how you're set up. Notice how it gapped over, and it gapped right there, and it actually gapped here, but it came back. It bounced a little bit off the EMA there. But that's a strong sell-off right there. And then you got your failed second entry long right here. Notice your new high, first entry, second entry. Notice how we pushed through the EMA. That's a really bearish bar. I like going short there. It actually jogged back again here, but by that time, now you got a double bottom, and that's a perfect doji. It is right off that key entry point, but I don't think it's worth risking. And it would have worked, but you don't know that ahead of time. And then, of course, now we get a break of that trend line, and you get a lower high here with a relatively bearish bar. There's not a lot of room between here and here. So what you might do is let it break lower and drop your limit order back up here one tick above that one, or maybe just a tick back, just enough to get room to get out. I definitely would recommend that on that trade, because if you wait and go short right here, you may not have enough room to get out. It does pull back and make a lower high here, but notice that's a bullish bar. It's got a little bit of a tick or two in off the high, but that's more bullish than anything. And by that time, you can see we're going sideways. You need something with enough room to go short here, or something with enough room to go long here. And you just don't have that yet. Notice that one is right into the lows. Even if you moved it down here to this next one, you still don't have room. It would have worked, but you don't know that ahead of time. It's not worth risking because it could bounce just like all these others did. But this one moves on down, and so I'd treat that. Now you've got a one leg down sideways, second leg down. You got a failed break out the top, a failed break out the bottom. Look how bullish that bar is. I'd probably risk that to ride it back. You're better off to wait on the higher low though, which comes here. But again, you need room to get out, so you may let this one break higher and drop a limit order. And you could have got filled a tick or so back in there, and it wouldn't have mattered because you got out anyway. But you want to have room to get out before here, because there's a good chance it turns down there. So just make sure that's the only thing on these ranges, when you got to get enough room to get out before the other side. You can't risk it'll push through, because it may not. I mean, all these times it pushed through one time down here. All these times up here it pushed up once, and it did this second time, but you don't know that it's going to do that. And you had a good idea where this line was going to be, because just copy it. This early on looked like a spiking channel, and that's the way I played it. But when prices started going higher here, copy this line and drag it up to the eye and see what happens. And you see it, you would have gotten that turning down perfect. So not only do you have a failed breakout here at the top, you tried to go through that trend line once, twice, three times, four times, and then got a big bearish bar. Go short right there. And off it goes. And of course, where does it bounce? The measured move down here. But look what happens. This is a new high. You try to go higher once, you try to go higher twice. You get a nice bearish bar, but I was a little hesitant with this one, just because you ended up with three matching lows there, and these two are almost dojis, and this one, it's more bearish than anything, but because it's three matching lows, I'm not crazy about it. I would definitely let it break lower and drop me a limit order back in here and see if it came back. And it would have come back and filled you at least right at the lows, maybe one tick back in there before it went on, try to make a second leg down. And if you measure that, you should get, I think it's going to be real close to a perfect measured move, and it is. It's exactly, actually it went a little further than a measured move. But I would have also measured this and dropped it down, and you can see you would have had another perfect measured move based on that. It does bounce there, and notice this is two legs down, and you can treat this like a little failed break lower. You're better off to wait on that higher low again. So, but I still like that one to ride it back to the EMA and maybe all the way back up into the range. And then you get a second entry short right off the EMA, right off the midline. So I like going short again. And you can see you're making lower lows and lower highs. And you can treat that pretty much like a failed second entry long. First entry, second entry. And then we just kind of start going sideways in this last little bit here. There is notice that's a new swing high. First entry, second entry. So you could treat that kind of like a second entry, but when it just kept going sideways, it's similar to this. It's almost a repeat pattern. So based on that, you may take it, but otherwise I would not take that trade. So I did mark it green. It looks a lot like a repeat pattern though. And then of course you try to go higher once, twice, and you get a second entry short here. And you tested this twice. Okay, had a slight interruption, but we had a double test right here, and that's basically two legs back to the EMA, the midline. It's not a really good signal bar, and you got a couple of, but it does again look like a repeat pattern. So you may take that one. It would have worked. And then you get a watch that comes back here, and you get that. Maybe I already talked about that one. This was the double test, and a big bearish bar and a second entry short. New low, first entry, second entry. You got to go short right there. And normally I would say you would want this to come back to this trend line, but you have this double test of this support resistance line, and it's holding. So I think that's good enough to take that one on a second entry short, especially with it closing below the EMA. And that was the trade of the afternoon, really. If you catch this one, you ride this all the way down. And then there's a failed second entry long here after 2 legs down and a bearish bar. It's only a first entry. There is a second entry here, but I wouldn't risk that one. Right into a double bottom, basically. I don't think it's worth risking. But if you caught either one of these, you probably had a runner. And then, of course, draw that equal distance over and it bounces. And then you get a higher low right here. And so you're still a long way away from the EMA. And notice you've had a close. You tried to go lower here. You've got a little short-term trend line, and you get a break and attempted a new low. But we're way overdone here. So I like that one just to ride it back to here. But it pushes right on through the EMA, pulls back, gives you a failed second entry short. This one's not quite back to the EMA, but that's so steep, that's probably close enough. So you probably could argue for this to be blue. But this was a big sell-off. And you got to be concerned there's no break of this trend line yet. So the fact that this didn't come back and actually bounce off the EMA, and there wasn't really a trend line yet. I looked at this like a spike and channel. You can see that's a very clear channel there. But it's still a failed second entry short, and it's back inside here bouncing off that. So it's probably at least going to here, but probably here. And this thing just keeps going. I don't see, there's a little second entry long right here, but it's right back into the trend line. I don't think it's worth taking. And suddenly you get a higher low here, but there's not a whole lot of room, not a great signal bar, but then it comes back again, makes a double top and basically and bounces higher and gives you a big bearish bar. I like that one. Looking for it to try to make a retest. We don't end up making a retest, but you get another nice trend working down. And that really took you into the 2 o'clock hour. So if this wasn't after 2 o'clock, I'd say you'd probably be smart to consider taking that short. But that's what I saw today. Pretty good day, mostly all downhill until we had this bounce here. And notice that 2 swings, that's usually going to be the center of your pattern. So I'd be looking definitely for a measured move, but you can see we went even further there. So good trading day, fairly straightforward. What looked like was going to be a range turns into a nice downtrend, really. And so anyway, I'm done for today. We'll wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.